Hey, thanks for watching and welcome aboard Open Range, our 1990 Beneteau 500. I'm Jack.
And I'm Lauren, and we are coming from Santa Cruz, California, and we're coming to you live from the wonderful anchorage on Motuarua Island in the Bay of Islands, New Zealand. We're super stoked to share this amazing boat with all of you. We had a dream of crossing the Pacific, and we were looking for the perfect boat to help us feel safe and secure, but also enough room to have all of our fun toys like surfboards and paddleboards, and basically just be kitted out and safe for the adventure of a lifetime. And this boat has been absolutely perfect.
So a little bit about Open Range. When we were boat shopping, we were looking for something that would be solid offshore, comfortable at anchor, and generally look after us more than we'd have to look after it on our crossing of the Pacific. This boat really checked the boxes for us. It's, as is typical of older Beneteaus, just totally overbuilt. All the fiberglass and rig and everything is super solid. There's a big old iron wing keel, so shoal draft, which has allowed us to go into some really spectacular and sometimes shallow anchorages. The boat has a ton of tankage. You're never out of diesel or water. A ton of food storage, so you never run out of food. A giant fridge, lots of room for solar panels, big dinghy, and like Lauren mentioned, all kinds of toys, and plenty of room when you're underway. So it's been all around for us just a really, really comfortable, safe, and enjoyable boat to sail. We specifically landed on this exact Beneteau 500, partly because it went around the world once. Sadly, we have not actually taken the boat to very many places it hasn't been before. The previous owners, a couple owners ago, owned the boat from 1994 to 2022 and took incredible care of it that whole time. And they circumnavigated the boat from 1998 to around 2003 or 4. Going westward from California across the Milk Run like we've done, and then around South Africa, across the Atlantic, back through the Panama Canal, and up to California again. So she's seen some miles, she's experienced, and she's a really solid boat all around. So we're hoping that she can continue on her journey. So without further ado, we'll show you around. Here we are in the cockpit. So we're going to talk through boat controls first. We've got two helms here, connected, standard twin helm cable setup. The starboard helm is kind of the primary helm, so we've got the engine controls over here, your gear shift and throttle, and your control panel down here where you can stop the engine and check your engine instruments. Then as far as sailing controls go, we have the jib furling line right here with a dedicated winch. We've got our starboard jib sheet winch, nice big solid metal Lumar 66. Up here we've got another Lumar 40. This one can be used for the main sheet, or also to raise the mainsail with the main halyard here, or to raise your kite with the spinnaker halyard here. So those three are all through this Lumar 40. And then over here we've got clutches with control of the jib halyard if you want to drop the jib, or the topping lift. And then moving over to the port side, same deal, big old Lumar 66 for the port jib sheet. And those are all really solid manual winches. This boat's about as big as you can go while still having everything be under control manually, which is really nice from a reliability standpoint. Alright, talking instruments, here we've got wind, speed, and direction straight from the top of the mast. And then over here we've got our speedo and depth. So these are all simple, easy to read at night, backlit, which is really nice. Then over here we've got our autopilot control. All of these have repeaters downstairs in the salon, so you can reach that right from the helm. And then we've got a compass at each helm, and the iPad up here is our chart plotter. And this is great because you can get your favorite navionics chart, all your satellite overlays when you're in the tropics, and you need 5 of them. And then you can also use the Ray Control app to both view and control the chart plotter downstairs, which is really nice. So you can look at your radar and shuffle between everything you could possibly need to run the boat from up here. Great, now we're going to talk safety equipment in the cockpit. So we've got our life sling over here. This is great if you need to pick up an MOB, you just drive a circle around them and they should be able to be reeled back into the boat. We've got our man overboard module. This was serviced in November of 2024. So it's all ready to go. You just pull this pin and it drops over a big inflatable and sea anchor for the MOB. Great for finding people at night or in a bad sea state. Moving over here, we've got our horseshoe buoy. That's kind of just standard Coast Guard fare. We've got our manual bilge pump right here. So that's just a standard handle, works great. And we've got a plate for our emergency tiller here. The emergency tiller is in the lazarette. It's super easy to install. You can have it in probably under 30 seconds, and then you can just steer the boat right here. And then while we're talking safety, I also like to mention we really love how this boat's set up as an aft cockpit so that you don't take waves in the face, but also a closed cockpit here so you can't fall over. It's not an open transom like some of the newer boats are. But then you've still got the ladder here, so it's really easy to reboard the boat if you're a swimmer, whether you're just out for a snorkel or if you're an MOB. So it's a really nice kind of mix of all worlds with the sugar scoop. All right, talking about our all the way back on the transom, the sugar scoop here. We've got a lot of great storage. All of these compartments drain overboard. There's no connection with the inside of the boat, which makes them really great for storing flammable liquids and aerosols such as gasoline. So we store 3 20-liter jugs of gas in this one for the dinghy, which is really convenient. And then this one, we typically store another couple jugs, 20 liters of diesel, just in case you need it, and some fins and snorkel masks and whatnot. And then this one I'm standing over pops up in this direction, and we put the dinghy gas can and some more fins in there. While we're back here, we've got the ladder that I'm standing on. We've got the Hyrdovane here, really solid. This has taken us 99% of our miles across the Pacific. It's great, works even better as the weather gets worse, and it's certainly seen some bad weather. So we have some pictures of the Hyrdovane fully set up. Right now it's kind of in our anchorage mode where it's out of the way and the drive unit is up in the forepeak, along with the rudder and the vane. We've got our Watt&Sea here. This is super easy to pop down, great for making power on passage, and you know, you're basically guaranteed to be able to run your fridge and radar and whatnot as long as the boat's moving, even if you got no sun or anything like that. Back here we've also got a nice transom shower. So this is great when you pop out after a snorkel so you don't get the boat all salty and you can just rinse off right away. Also great for taking sea showers underway. And I think that's about it for back here. We've got our lovely paddleboard floating. We use that to get into the beach. Really nice to land on shore since you can just pick it up. And we've also got our aft nav light back here. Talking about the dinghy a little bit. This is a great dinghy. It's really quite oversized for 2 people. We have had 5 people in it with surfboards and can still get on plane with the 15-horse 2-stroke outboard. It's a great motor. It's only about 5 years old. And then the dinghy itself has a aluminum paneled floor, so the floor is fully removable, which allows us to store it completely inside the boat on passages. No dinghy on the foredeck, which is really nice. So we have some photos of it stowed in the forepeak. Other than that, it's pretty standard. We've got these davits here, which are a 3-to-1 block system. Just manually lift the dinghy up, and then anytime that we're on a fairly mellow passage, we'll just leave it on the davits here. Otherwise, it does fit on the foredeck upside down with the motor in the forepeak, or if we're on a longer passage, we will leave it all the way inside the forepeak. All right, here we are up on top of the arch. So up here we have 6 100-watt Renogy rigid solar panels. They're all less than a year old and under warranty. So this thing makes quite a bit of power with the 600 watts and not much shade. In the center here, we have the Starlink. So this is an all-weather mount for the Starlink dish. I think the entire arch would probably blow off the boat before the Starlink blows away, as you can use the Starlink anytime. We've also got our wind generator up here, and then on that side we have our Raymarine radar, along with a antenna for the Iridium Go, or any Iridium product, and then also a redundant AIS receive antenna that's hooked up to the water. Looking down on the bimini here, we've got another 600 watts of solar. Those are our flexible panels, and they're great. They basically double our solar output, and barely notice them most of the time. The bimini and the solar panels are pretty easy to take down in high winds. So you can kind of just collapse the whole thing and tie the bars up, and even in those high winds, you still got the arch. One more ad for the safety section is our EPIRB. So this is a hydrostatic release, kind of brand new, less than a year old ACR top of the line EPIRB. You can see it's all ready to go. If the boat were to for some reason go down, it'll just pop out and float right up to the surface. We've also got an older redundant EPIRB inside, which we'll show you in a few minutes. All right, here's our propane locker. So we've got 2 tanks here, which is great. We found this is plenty to get you over a month out off the grid. And there's an electronically controlled solenoid in here that's switched from inside for safety to make sure you're not ever pumping propane into the boat by accident. These are conveniently located right next to our grill here. There's no better spot to grill than wherever you have the boat anchored back here off the transom. So this is right next to the propane locker, super easy. We'll upload some photos of the grill too. We've also got fishing rod holders on both sides of the cockpit here. So those are great when you're offshore. At the back, speaking of amenities, we have these nice wakeboard tower speakers, far louder than you could ever need on a sailboat. So those can be pretty fun when you're offshore too. Getting into everyone's favorite time of the day, happy hour. We've got this nice fold-up table in the cockpit. So as you probably saw in the previous cuts, it's down and out of the way most of the time, but then when you want to sit up here, you can fit 6 people pretty easily. Got some nice cup holders at the helms and in the table. Another one up in the companionway. And it's a pretty great spot to relax, whether you're underway or at anchor. Let's talk cockpit storage. So first of all, for the little stuff, we've got one of these cubbies, another one back by the port helm. Then inside the table, the all-important cooler. This was a Beneteau after all. It's got to be comfortable. And then we have 2 pretty huge lazarettes. So this one's got all of our hoses, oil, soap, the Hyrdovane rudder, all kinds of goodies in there. And then this one on the port side is everything you might need for the dinghy: pumps, covers, anchors, wheels, all that kind of thing. And then when we're at anchor, we keep the life raft in there. When we're not at anchor or we're on a passage, we keep the life raft on the transom for easy access. So we'll have a photo of that as well. This is our dock line and power cord locker. So this thing's pretty deep, and we've got all kinds of lines, everything you'd possibly need. The ditch bag in there, and then here's our shore power hookup. Let's talk tankage real quick. So back here we've got a fill for a diesel and a water tank, and we've got on the starboard side another fill for a diesel tank. So this boat has some totally insane tank capacity. For diesel we have about 550 liters split between a port and starboard tank, and then for water we've got about 1,400 liters split over 5 different tanks. So there's an absolutely insane amount of diesel and water, more than you could possibly ever use with 2 people, and so you're really set up well to take your friends off grid. And those can be filled from back here, or the water tank. We have the Watermaker fills 1 water tank, and then you can transfer it to any of the other water tanks, which we'll get into inside. All right, moving up to the mast. Got all 316 lifelines all the way around. All really solid 316 rigging. We've got a rigging report that indicates the rigging's got another decade of life in it at least. On top of the Coachroof here, we have a ton of storage. We've got 4 surfboards in that stack right there. We've had another 4 over here at some point. You can bring a lot of surfboards on this boat. Got our traveler right here in front of the cockpit and the main sheet. All pretty standard fare. And then we'll take a look at the mast here now. Here we are at the mast, so let's talk about the rig and how everything's set up. So like I mentioned, we've got this solid all 316 rigging. Everything on this boat is pretty overbuilt, as is common of a 1990 Beneteau. Right here we've got a Dyneema inner forestay. So it's currently stowed, but that will connect to the deck right here, and then you can put your storm jib up on it. So that is really nice to have in foul weather. We've used it a fair amount. Here on the starboard side of the mast, we've got a Lumar 40 winch, and this one you can use to raise from the mast the main halyard or the spinnaker halyard. So that's really nice. It gives you the option to raise it from the mast or to do everything from the cockpit. So you can use that depending on the conditions, however you like. This is just a topping lift here, if you want to use it for like a whisker pole, for example. And then moving back here, we've got our reefing lines. So here's our 3rd reef, 2nd reef, 1st reef, and our outhaul. So these are really simple and reliable. Just a clutch right here. And this is a slab reefing, kind of old school slab reefing system. So you've got a kringle up here that you just hook on, and then the reefing lines. So everything about this boat is kind of really simple and reliable. That's the name of the game, in our opinion, offshore. Moving backwards a little bit, we've got a rigid boom vang. So this will support the boom, or you can use the line to pull it down, and then we've got our preventer coiled around it right now. Moving around to this side, the port side, we've got our storm jib halyard here. It's all red with white. We've got our spare halyard all white with red, and our jib halyard and our topping lift. Another Lumar 40 winch here that you can use for any of these guys. So this would be kind of where you control your jibs from. I should have mentioned we have another Lumar 30 for the reefing lines here. So any line that's at the mast, there's a winch for it. We've also got our lazy jacks here. So these are out tied to the jungle bars right now, but both sides of the sail we got lazy jacks, so super easy to just drop it without someone at the mast at all, and it'll just drop into the lazy jacks and sit there waiting until you have a chance to put sail ties on it. So super easy, no rush, no chance of spilling the sail there. We've also got these folding mast steps, so there's 3 of them. Makes it a lot easier to get up to the top of the main or anything else like that. And then we've got our radar reflector as well, and our courtesy flag there. In addition to a deck light about halfway up the mast, which is really nice, LED, and can light up the workspace for you. The last couple things I'll mention while we're up here are, kind of goes without saying, but these jungle bars are really nice. They're super solid. You can stand on them, and they will keep you at the mast rather than falling off the boat. So this is something that we, don't see on a lot of other boats, and I'm honestly not quite sure why, because it's a really nice feature. We've also got these Dorade vents, one on each side. So these do a great job of funneling air down into the forward kind of owner's cabin and into the shower and head there, and they just rotate kind of standard Dorade vents. Those are great to have as well. Just 2 more things at the mast. Here's our ring to hook on the whisker pole. So over here we've got a telescoping whisker pole. It's got a little bend in it, so it telescopes about 3/4 of the way. And then down here we've got the spar tight. So this is an awesome system. Instead of mast chops, you don't have to worry about adjusting at all. It's just a kind of resin-based filler, and it's completely 100% watertight. So that's been really nice. Anytime you got a lot of water up on the foredeck, you don't have to worry about the mast leaking, moving, swaying, etc. So that's really nice to have. And then I'll also just mention we got this spot for a winch handle up here. Continuing with our theme of having really secure trip up to the mast or bow from the jungle bars, we've got jack lines rigged all the way up, sufficiently far inboard from the side of the boat. So if you got your tether, you can clip into this guy back at the cockpit, come inside the jungle bars, and then clip into this guy, and then you're all the way up at these nice secure grab bars at the forepeak, and then from there you can either head into the forepeak, or you can clip onto this D-ring up at the bow. So you can do pretty much anything you could possibly need to do on this boat while underway, while also clipped in, which is a great safety feature. All right, here we are at the front of the boat. So we're going to talk about the anchor locker. Here it is. So we've got in this side, got 220 feet of chain plus a bunch of rope rode that's less than a year old. We've got our mirror cheetah windlass here, so this works great. And we've got foot switches right here to make pulling up the anchor a breeze. We're currently at anchor, so obviously the Rockna 33 is on the bottom, but we'll have some photos of that. Super solid anchor. Will easily hold this boat for pretty much anything the ocean can throw at it. So we've been super happy with that. In addition to the Rockna in here, we've got this other CQR. So I think this is a 55 pounder. This was on the boat before we bought the Rockna. So that's a great backup anchor with some chain and rope rode too. And the anchor chain is all measured out and labeled with zip ties. You got a T right here, so you're all set to have an easy time anchoring. While we're up here, I'll also just talk about the tow rail. This is another thing like the jungle bars that seems to have gone out of style on a lot of newer boats. I'm not quite sure why. Super useful. You can clip anything you want to it all the way back to the very back of the boat. And it also keeps all your tools from falling overboard when you inevitably drop them on the deck. So a really nice feature. Up here, we've got our Schaefer furler. This guy's been super reliable for us. Furling line's pretty new. and it's just easy. You can furl the jib from the cockpit, and then we've got our anchor rollers, so you can have both anchors on the bow at once if you want, and the starboard primary one's got a pivot on it too, so you can pull the Rachna in completely with the windlass. We've also got this chain stopper here, so the stopper plate isn't in it right now, but this is great for holding the chain while you switch from chain to rope if you're in a deeper anchorage. While we're up here, I'll also just talk about the snubber. So this is a rope snubber. It's, I don't know, probably 3 meters long. This was actually purchased the last time the boat was in New Zealand about 20 years ago on its first lap around the world. So it does a great job. We've had no issues with it. And then up here we've got our nav light. So easy, just one light. You don't have to deal with two. And we've rewired that recently as well, so it's should be good to go for a while. Alright, here we are in the forepeak. So this is a really luxuriously big sail locker to have at the front of a boat. Back in the day it was used as cruise quarters, so there's 2 bunk beds here that a full-size person could sleep on. I wouldn't sleep in them now because it's really more of a sail locker. But we've got a ton of really nicely organized, secure storage for stuff up here. So these are our storm sails, storm trysail, storm jib, super easy to get to. We got some lines over here and a shelf for some longer stuff like dinghy oars and whatnot, and brushes. Then moving over this way, on the other side of the ladder, we've got this is our kite here, our Jenniker. This is where we keep the paddle board usually, and when we're on passage you can fit the dinghy in here, and the dinghy motor right here, totally out of the way. And over here, this is our 90% jib, so super easy to swap that for the 140 Genoa in heavier airs or if you're going upwind. Back on the left, we've got our drogue here. So this is a Jordan series drogue in the bag that's sized for the boat. Never been really used before much other than to test it. So that's great to have for peace of mind. This bag has about every line you could possibly imagine in it. This is our custom shade tarp here that fits the whole boat and covers it with holes cut exactly where the rigging goes through. And then right here we've got our Fiorentino para anchor for heavy weather too. So here's the para anchor, here's the rode for it, and again, this has not been used very much. It's in great shape and nice to have for peace of mind if you hit bad weather. And then moving down here, we've got storage for all kinds of fenders under the bed, and so we can fit all of our fenders there rolled up if we're not going to use them for quite a while. And then we have some dive gear we keep under the floor panel here. While we're up here, I'll also just quickly talk about some water fill plates. So like I mentioned, 5 water tanks. They're all totally separate, and you can fill each of them individually from the deck up here. So maybe before we go inside, we'll just take a minute to appreciate this lovely anchorage.
Welcome below decks to our spacious salon and galley. Before we get started on details, we'll do a quick 360 so you can get your bearings. Starting with the forwardmost owner's cabin, there is one large cabin up here with a queen bed, 1 head and 1 shower. Moving this way, we have the galley, fridge, instruments, and then here in the aft section, we have 2 aft cabins, each with a double berth and a dedicated head. Here is the starboard side, and here's the port side with a private head. Okay, follow me to the forward cabin. This is what we like to call the owner's cabin. Nice and big, spacious on both sides. You can walk down either side of the nice queen bed. Both sides of the room have large closets. You can fit a ton of stuff in here: valise, clothes, instruments, shoes, all of the things. We've also got a dedicated shower in this cabin. Really nice. You know, the hot water from the engine comes in here, and it's nice and spacious for you to take a shower. Also some cabinet storage back there. Each side of the room also has opening cabinets up here and up here. Lots of storage for clothes and gear, and good places to charge your electronics up by the bed. Another fantastic part of this forward cabin is the ventilation. We've got 2 opening hatches here so that when the boat is facing forward at anchor on a mooring, you get nice airflow. We also have the durade vents that Jack showed you up on deck. Those vent out right here. And the shower and head also have side-facing hatches, so you can really get air from any direction, especially if you manipulate the durades. Alright, and this is the head. You'll notice that the head is totally separate from the shower, so it's a nice dry head. You can take your showers separate from where you have all of your toiletries and your bathroom stuff. And both the head and the shower rooms have great storage. Both of them have 2 cabinets, so you can fit all of your toiletries, wet gear, whatever you'd like to store in there. Alright, as you can see, we have 2 spacious pull-out drawers at the foot of the bed. That's just a fraction of the underbed storage. Both mattresses lift up for giant compartments of storage under the bed. We have folding bikes in here. We have shop vacs. We have spare pumps. We have everything you could possibly need under the bed. And there's easy access storage compartments under the pillows as well. So picture all of this as your storage. All right, let's go check out the aft cabins. So in the aft end of the boat, we have 2 identical cabins, each with a spacious double berth. Both cabins have their own head, and you'll notice the starboard head also has a door facing out to the salon, so you can use that as your public head if you have visitors. The heads both have great cabinet storage, as well as a shower and an opening hatch for nice ventilation. And coming into the cabin, all of the cabins are equipped with lee cloths to split the berth if needed, keep you nice and tucked in if you're offshore, easily stowed below the mattress as well. And one of my favorite parts of sleeping in these aft cabins is all of the ventilation. You'll notice we have 1, 2, 3 opening hatches, all facing different directions. So whether you're offshore or at anchor, you have great airflow back here and a lot of nice light. Finally, all of the storage, underbed storage for gear, tankage, etc., as was the same in the forward cabin. We've also got a nice spacious closet in these aft cabins, as well as 2 opening drawers and a nice little shoe compartment here. All right, moving into the port aft cabin. Pretty much same setup in here, lots of storage. Private head with a shower. This one does not open into the salon, so it's all yours, which is great. All of the cabins are also equipped with power. You can charge all of your devices through a DC outlet next to the bed. There's also fans, reading lights, all of the accommodations you could possibly want. All right, moving into the galley, starting with our favorite feature, our spacious fridge and freezer. If you want to come take a look, we've got a top-loading fridge. You can fit tons of food in here, nice and spacious for offshore rationing as well as at anchor comforts. We also have a freezer connected with a spillover fan and an evaporator plate. The freezer is water-cooled and super easy to manage. Keeps things nice and frosty. We've kept frozen meat, frozen fruit, frozen veg for weeks at a time, so the fridge and freezer are fabulous. And then moving into the rest of the galley, we've got a gimbaled stove and oven here. You can of course lock out the gimbals for when you don't need the balance. 3 burners and an oven with a wire rack. fabulous for baking. I have baked many a loaf in this oven. We've also got a microwave, which is fabulous for especially when you're on passage or otherwise just too tired to cook a full meal. Just heat something up really quick. Works great. Moving over, we've got 2 sink basins. We've got a saltwater pump right here, which is great for just a quick rinse of the dishes before you use your freshwater. Helps conserve water quite a bit. Our freshwater faucet has 2 modes. It has a low flow mode for when you want to conserve water. It also has a high flow mode. So that's super easy to use. Sink drains straight out, no problem. Moving over here, we've got a ton of storage. Again, the name of the game on this boat is comfort and offshore capability. So a ton of food storage lends itself to both of those things. This compartment is like our pantry. It's super deep. We fit, I think, 300 cans in here when we left for our biggest offshore passage. So you can fit a ton of cans, pots, pans, whatever you desire in here. We've also got nice pot and pan storage up top. The cabinets are all latching, which is great. They don't fling open underway. Nice sliding compartment with an outlet in here. We plug in blenders, coffee grinders, all of the necessary kitchen appliances. Also got good storage up here, including a spice rack for those fun offshore meals. Keep things exciting. Even more storage up here. We keep bowls and Tupperwares up there. And to match all of our amazing food storage, we have got a massive rubbish bin, nice and top loading up here, so you can just scrape stuff in as you're cooking, and easy to access the rubbish bin from the side as well. Take out the bags and dispose of your trash when you're ready. Finally, we've got 2 more cabinets in here, nice for mugs and appliances, other kitchen related activities. Keeping our blender in there right now. So lots of very secure storage when you're offshore. Finally, under the sink, we've got big storage as well. We keep our cleaning products in there, and easy access to the sink intake and output through holes as well. Another fabulous feature of our galley and salon is we have 4 opening hatches, which is great for when you're cooking or underway. You can keep things nice and airy in here. The hatches also all have retractable covers, so if you're trying to keep the boat nice and cool, that's great as well. The skylight is super nice for nice light. You can also open and close the cover from the top. We've personalized a little bit. We've added some stickers from home and for some destinations we've been, but we were sure to put a removable plastic film underneath first to protect the wood varnish. So fear not, you will not be picking off these stickers. They come off very easily. Moving over into the rest of the salon, one of our favorite features is our little radio. You can connect via Bluetooth, so we are big on the tunes when we're cooking, sailing, hosting company. Super easy to just connect via Bluetooth. You can see we have some Bose speakers set up inside the salon, and you can also control the interior and exterior speakers separately. So if you want to blast music to the whole anchorage, you can do that. If you want to keep it inside, you can do that as well. You'll also notice a ton of storage here visible in the salon. We keep food, baking supplies, gear, anything you can think of in these cabinets. There's also storage in the table. Great for wine bottles. There's little wine bottle holders in there. We also have a DC outlet back here. This is great for charging phones that are playing music, as well as the handheld VHF, radios, walkie-talkies. Super easy to plug in phones, laptops, and anything you'd like to back there as well. Alright, so I keep mentioning having a lot of storage. We have a lot of storage. If you pull up the salon settee cushions, every single part of the underside of the cushions has storage. We have tons of tools in here. We keep our scuba BCDs and tanks in here. Ton of electrical spares. We keep our power tools over there. Countless power tools. We keep cooking supplies back here. We keep sail covers, winch covers, instrument covers, grains, rice, pasta, baked goods, electronics. You can fit a ton of stuff under here, and it's nice and tucked out of the way. Another great feature for underway is we have equipped a lee cloth here, so you can tuck in nice on the settee cushions and be super tucked in when you're offshore. It's also another great berth for if you have a visiting guest or crew member. You'll notice over here we have a pretty massive water heater compared to most boats. It's heated by the engine, so you actually don't have to use any of your batteries to get nice warm water for your showers. You just run the engine for about 10 minutes, you'll have a water heater full of hot water, and all of your guests will be very happy. Alright, moving on to the all-important safety features down below. The first of which is this grip on the stairs. This is really nice when you're offshore or even just running around at anchor. Really safe and secure and no slipping and sliding when you're coming down below, even if it's wet outside. This is our redundant EPIRB. We have our primary EPIRB in a hydrostatic release capsule outside, but we have another one in here just in case. Moving over this way, we have a fire blanket for any galley mishaps. And we also have a dock for an Iridium Go right here. It communicates to the satellite antenna outside, but it's nice because you can check on the go and make sure it's all charged up at the dock right here by the stairs. We also have carbon monoxide and smoke detectors in every room. These are brand new. We test them pretty frequently, sometimes inadvertently with some burning things in the kitchen. But they're great and very effective, very loud. So those are all set in every room. We also have fire extinguishers in every room. We have this nice big one here for the galley. We have a redundant regular fire extinguisher over by the mast, and then we have a Halotron fire extinguisher. This is specifically for engine fires as it vaporizes the particles in the engine chamber. So it's nice to use with that engine port right there. Moving on with safety, here's where our primary bilge pumps are. There's nice easy access. There's a quick lift floor panel, but you can also take the floor all the way off as we've done here. We have our primary bilge pump and sensor switch down in the bottom. That's the black and red pump. The white pump, you can also see that's our redundant super high output bilge pump. So if the water level is rising rapidly or if the primary bilge pump fails, we have a redundant pump connected to a float switch right there. Again, these are really easy to check. They're also connected to a bilge alarm, which will be triggered by water and fire off really loudly in the galley. We also have a propane sniffer right here. This will detect any propane leaks that make their way into the bilge and alert you before they become a flammability risk. Alright, moving on to the freshwater system. This boat has a ton of water capacity. We've got 5 separate tanks. There are 2 tanks glassed in under the forward bed. Those can be accessible from the underbed compartments, and they also have a little fill cap and inspection port right there. Each of the central compartments in the salon and galley also have a glassed-in tank underneath the floor, accessible by lifting the floor panels, same way. And there's a 5th tank under the aft port berth. That's the tank that the water maker fills, and we'll get to that in just a minute. Each of the 5 tanks has a dedicated inline valve here in this mast cabinet, so you can decide which tank, if any, you're going to be using to power your freshwater system. When you open your desired tank, that tank will then fuel the water pump, which goes ahead and fills the pressure accumulator. This means that you can have water pressure at any time without the pump kicking on. So you can go ahead, fill the accumulator from your tank and have nice water pressure. Then when the pressure drops, the pump will automatically kick on, again, pressurizing your system. Super nice to have this control here. We also use this valve manifold to rebalance the tanks from the water maker. The water maker fills the aft port tank, which you can see tucked in over here. And we've got some instructions here for rebalancing, which is the way that you can fill the aft port tank with the water maker and then use that water to fill the other 4 tanks. So you can fill your entire system via the water maker. So over here we've got our water maker, a brand new Spectra Ventura 150D. Excellent stuff. We installed this in January of 2025, and we've been maintaining it ever since. It's a really nice water maker, really easy to use. You can see right here, this is the input, the seawater input, which you can control with this valve. The seawater then goes through a preliminary filter here and then goes through the membrane where the reverse osmosis, the magic happens. And then you can see in the back there, we've got a valve that toggles. We have a sample valve. So before you inject that Watermaker water into your tank, you can have it come out of a sample valve in the aft starboard head. So you can use a salinity tester and make sure it's up to your standards. Really easy to manipulate down here. We've got a local on and off switch for the Watermaker, as well as a secondary redundant breaker. So the controls are over here. We've got our Watermaker breaker up here. So with the local switch down below, you don't accidentally flip on the Watermaker. This is great. We've got a gauge here that indicates the fullness of the aft port tank, so you can see when the Watermaker is filling how close you are to full. And then over here we've got the Spectra instruments where you can see the output over here in gallons per hour or liters per hour. You can also see the pressure of the system to make sure that you're running at the correct pressure for the membrane. We've got the specs posted here so you can always make sure it's within range. Okay, over here we've got our nav station. We have a Raymarine radar and chart plotter. It works great, and you can mirror it to the iPad at the helm, so you can always have an eye on what's going on radar and on the charts. We've also got AIS receive that goes to this chart plotter. And then our VHF, that's also new as of this year, has got AIS send and receive, so you can transmit AIS as well. Moving over, we've got a pretty ancient chart plotter, so if you were wondering what your coastline looked like in 1998, that'll tell you. If you're feeling a little bit more modern, we've also got a handheld GPS. Fortunately, we don't need or use either of these much anymore, but they're there for your vintage enjoyment. We've also got the wind speed and direction repeater here, mirrors the windstrument at the helm. We've also got the autopilot repeater, so you can view and control the autopilot from inside as well, which is great for when it's super nasty outside. We've got a spare VHF here, super basic, just redundant. And then we've got our bilge alarm here. So that bilge alarm that we highlighted below the floor earlier, that will transmit from here. All right, everyone's favorite topic, the holding tank. We have a Blackwater holding tank under the aft starboard berth. This holding tank can be easily pumped out with a macerator pump. You just can control it from the sink. Underneath the sink in this head, you can toggle output from the head itself, so you can flush directly out. You can also toggle to output from the tank. So when you turn on the macerator pump, it's as simple as toggling output from the tank, and then you can dump your holding tank and be done with that.
Great. Well, now we're going to talk about electrical. So we'll start out with our Epoch lithium batteries here. These are some super high quality lithium batteries. We have 920 amp hours, because it'd be no fun to run out of power if you also weren't running out of water and diesel while you're partying. So we got two of those. You probably saw earlier when we did the bilge pump. So a total of 920 amp hours of lithium power, which as you probably know, you can drain almost down to zero. So it's just an insane amount of usable power. And those batteries have I think a 10 or 11 year warranty, and they're less than a year old. So those are kind of the beating heart of the electrical system. While we're talking about batteries, we've also got a really new engine starter battery. This is a high quality AGM, so no issues starting the engine. And these are totally parallel systems. So the lithium batteries have one alternator, a high output alternator that charges them, that we'll get to with the engine. And the engine AGM has a totally separate alternator, so there's no mixing of the AGM and lithium systems, unless you have an emergency where you're discharged. And then we have some cutover switches that you can use very carefully to start the engine with the house batteries if you need to. So getting into this panel, we've got cutoffs for the engine, for the house, for the windlass, a breaker for the windlass. We have a lot of ways to charge the batteries. I think we might have every available method. There's the Watt&Sea is this converter, so that uses the motion of the boat through the water. We've got two MPPTs here. So these are both Renogy Rover units, both good for the 600 watts going through each of them. And then we've also got some switches for the wind generator here. So we got wind, solar, hydro, and then a couple of pretty big alternators. Continuing on with electrical, we've got some new Bluewater type panels. So there's one here and there's another DC 12 volt panel by the stairs. We've definitely made sure that there's none of the usual shenanigans you might see on a 35-year-old boat with switches all over the place and circuits with too many things spliced into them. So pretty much everything here is on a breaker, kosher. So you can just flip the switch. You've got all your lights here in this column. We've got the water pump, bilges, sumps for the showers, all your nav stuff over here. And then we do have a SSB radio under one of the berths in the aft port berth. But ironically, times have changed a little bit, so our SSB breaker got repurposed for the Starlink. Here's the fun stuff when it comes to electrical. So this is our big old MagnaSign inverter and battery charger. This thing's awesome, works really well, reliable, and it'll power pretty much anything in the boat except the dive compressor. We didn't do quite enough research before we put in the dive compressor here. So this is our Mantis Marine dive compressor. It'll fill a standard scuba tank in about an hour. So we love that. It lets you dive off the boat and have your tanks be ready for more things than just picking up your anchor if it's wrapped around coral. And we have for the dive compressor a separate inverter. We did succumb to the temptation of an Amazon product there. So this inverter powers everything on the boat. That inverter powers just the dive compressor, and then the dive compressor is here ready to go whenever you need to fill a tank. Uses, I don't know, maybe 10% or 15% of the batteries to fill a tank, so not too bad if you're on a sunny day. And then here we have the fridge compressor. So like Lauren mentioned earlier, this is water cooled, so this is a saltwater loop here, which makes it nice and efficient. And then it basically pulls salt water up into the boat, uses it to cool the refrigerant, and then sends that into the freezer. From the freezer, there's a spillover fan in the fridge. So it's a pretty simple system, despite how giant the fridge and freezer are. On this side of the stairs, this is our inverter control panel. So you can set all your parameters on the MagnaSign, like the battery charge rate, and monitor your usage here and things like that. This is our AC breaker panel. So similar story, everything on the AC side comes through one of the breaker panels. And then here we have our diesel fuel gauges. So this shows you the starboard tank right now is about 3/4 and port is full. Oh, and this is also the fridge controller here. So you can control the fridge temp and see how much the spillover fan should be running. Time to bring it home with the drivetrain. So here's the most fun part. This is our Perkins 4236. This is kind of the standard check the oil access to the engine. Pretty easy. You got your dipstick right down here. You can see your belts, check your coolant, etc. So this is what you do, kind of every time you start the engine, is you just take these two cushions off and open up the bench. So that's pretty straightforward. You might think this is a kitchen cabinet based on where it is, but it actually takes you into the engine. And this one is mostly useful for changing the oil filter. If you fit your hand in there right, you can change the oil filter without taking off the whole engine cabinet. That's a nice feature. So we have really great access to the engine here. We've got this bench taken off. We got that cabinet taken off. Even this piece will come off if you really want to. So you can really reach just about anything except the bottom side of the oil pan pretty easily. So as far as boats go, I'll take that. Let's talk about power delivery first. So obviously we got the engine block here, 4-cylinder diesel. Here we've got the Perth transmission. So like we mentioned, that's controlled from the helm. And you can lock that in gear to feather the prop. And then coming back here along the prop shaft, this is our stuffing box. So this stuffing box, you can actually take this piece out and add stuffing in the water without flooding your boat, which is really nice. And it does drip a little bit, but it's super reliable. So that's the trade-off. And then while we're in here, we've got a hose for the exhaust. We've got the engine saltwater intake, the fridge and water maker intake, and the pickup for the aft head saltwater flush. And then there's a saltwater pump for the fridge back here a little ways behind our paper towel storage. Moving into the fuel system, we've got 2 stainless steel tanks. There's one under the port berth and one under the starboard berth. Those have been cleaned out recently. They're pretty much spotless inside, and they each have 4 inspection ports that are about that big. So no issues with dirty fuel on this boat. The port tank is an auxiliary tank of the starboard tank, so there's just a gravity valve with a hose to transfer between them. So you always use the fuel that's in the starboard tank, and then you can refill it easily from the port tank. From the port tank, the fuel comes up here to this primary filter. This is kind of a Raycor style filter housing. It's actually lower than the tank, which is really nice because you never have to pour fuel into it to prime it. All you have to do is open the valve at the tank and it'll fill itself up with diesel slowly, and then you can just close the top. Moving along the fuel system a little bit, we've got this pump here. So this is just a 12-volt pump. It's used for bleeding the engine, just to make that process really easy. So this doesn't run when the engine is running typically, but when you're doing maintenance, there's a switch on the switchboard so that you can turn it on and push fuel through the system, and then you don't have to manually pump the primary lift pump when you're bleeding the engine. Speaking of the primary lift pump, we'll go over there now. This is the primary lift pump. It's driven off the engine, and this thing is new as of about January. So from the primary lift pump, the fuel will go back over to the other side through this secondary filter. This is a 2-micron filter, quite easy to change and then easy to bleed it again. You got access to one of your bleed nuts right there, and like we mentioned, we have the electric pump, and then the fuel will come over to your injection pump here. Again, super easy access to the bleed nuts, and then easy to bleed at the injectors again. So the fuel system is pretty easy to look after. All right, let's talk cooling and exhaust. So here's our raw water strainer. This guy actually lifts up. There's some rubber clasps that hold it down, so you can check the raw water strainer without taking off this whole cabinet. The raw water comes in. We've got our heat exchanger, our coolant tank here, and then our water cooling jacket for the exhaust here. So pretty straightforward marine diesel. After that, we've got the injection elbow. So we actually just replaced this pipe, which is why you see this weld here. That was done at a machine shop, and the injection elbow looks great inside. The muffler looks good inside, so there's not too many issues that we know of there. So that's the exhaust system. Talking engine electrics, here on the front, we've got, this is the house alternator. It's got a dual belt drive, so super heavy duty alternator. And then on the starboard side, we've got the engine battery alternators. This is kind of a more standard, smaller alternator, so we're always charging both battery banks at the same time if we want to. This one, the house alternator, is externally regulated with a Balmar regulator so that we don't overcharge the lithium batteries. And then moving back here, this is our starter. So this is a huge oversized starter, pretty beefy, and on the newer side as well. So this has been super reliable to start the engine, and that's right across from the raw water pump, which I missed in the cooling system. So that's the Perkins. Last but not least, we almost forgot the steering system. So here I am in the steering locker. It's a bit of a squeeze, but not too bad by sailboat standards. So here's the top of our rudder, the rudder post there. Here's the quadrant. Here's the rudder tube. So super well reinforced here. Everything's kind of really solid, beefy. We've got a cable system that runs over to some pulleys, and then up there's a chain and gear at each helm that runs across. We've obviously got some jerry cans, spare 3-blade prop, and a spare again stern anchor in here. And then there's the autopilot ram. Here's the autopilot over on the starboard side here. Here's the SSB tuner. Some backing plates for the Hyrdovane. That's pretty much everything in this locker. You can see some of the bilge pump outputs, the exhaust coming out, and the switch right here for our cockpit lights. And this is the back side of the propane locker. That's the steering locker. Well, if you've made it this far, congratulations. That was quite a bit of stuff. So go treat yourself to a beer. I'm sure that's what we'll be doing in just a minute.
Yep, and we really enjoyed making this video. We love this boat. She has treated us so well, gotten us out of some sticky situations, and this video has been a great time to reflect on all of the hard work we've put into making her the comfortable, offshore-worthy boat she is today. So we're stoked to hopefully see her go on many adventures for decades to come.
Cheers.